All right, guys, we will continue with Leshem Yichud. We are going into deeper stuff, so please interrupt if I'm not explaining myself well, or if you can't understand. Okay, so we're trying to understand the union between Kudsha Berich Hu Shechinah, which we said is the same as the union between the name of Hashem that is Yud Kei Vav Kei, and the name of Hashem that is Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, Adnai. And we also want to understand why we're asking for Yichuda Shelimah, for a complete union, instead of just a union. And we mentioned the phrase we say every morning, Atahu shelo nivra ha'olam, Atahu mishenivra ha'olam. You are the one who existed before the world was created. You are the one who exists after the world was created, in the sense that Ani Hashem lo shaniti, Hashem has not changed. Hashem is exactly the same before and after, like absolutely nothing happened, no new knowledge, nothing. Because basically we are, in some form, non-existent. No matter how many hats you have, you're still non-existent.
Just
Yeah.
part of the simulation.
Yeah.
And to understand this better, we said we're going to talk about the sun. Just not your sun, but the sun. Yeah? Okay, so the sun. There are rays of light that come out of the sun that we can see. And the question we asked last time, that's where we ended off, is whether those rays of light that come out of the sun, or that we can see outside of the sun, are also inside of the sun.
Right.
Inside of the orb of the sun. The answer is yes, we would assume, right? If they come out of the sun, they have to be inside. But inside the sun, nobody talks about the rays of the sun, it's just the sun. You can't appreciate a ray when it's the sun itself, the source of light.
Right.
The ray is just something that, like a tiny bit that comes out, right? So when the ray of the sun comes out of the sun, it's sort of like it gains its independence. And now you can say, look, I see a ray of the sun. Before that, it was there, but I couldn't point at it and name it and say, here is this, because it was completely nullified inside of the sun.
Why is that important?
Because it's an example.
Okay.
Good question, see? And we're saying that we are in the same boat. If we are inside of Hashem, it's like the ray of the sun, you can't see it. If we are outside of Hashem, it's like, oh look, there's Mark. Yeah. Now, there's an issue here, because again, in the example of the sun, there are clearly two states. The nullified state of the ray inside the sun, and the independent state of the ray outside of the sun. Well, in our case, there's just one state. There's no place outside of Hashem where we can say, look, there's Mark. There's no place outside of Hashem. We're completely all subsumed inside of Hashem, because He's everywhere. Yeah?
Yeah. That's the Shechinah, right?
That is more than the Shechinah.
Okay.
The Shechinah is a lower level, lower name of Hashem. The one that we said, Kudsha Berich Hu, is Kedusha, is separated, is transcendent, is infinite. The Shechinah is how it's invested within the world. We're going to understand.
Okay.
We're going to understand a little bit more soon. And then you realize you don't understand. But really, all of this is from Hashem's perspective. There's only one state. From the perspective of Hashem, there's Him and there's us within Him, and that's it. There's nothing outside of Him. But the reality is that when Hashem created the world and He made the famous Tzimtzum, I mentioned that word before. Yeah?
Yes, I remember.
Tzimtzum. He made the Tzimtzum, where He made sort of like a space within Himself where He is hidden. He made a space inside of himself where he is there, but he's hidden. So that we could feel as if we are outside of the sun. And then we could say, oh look, there's Mark. We feel independent, but we are we're still inside the sun. We're still inside of Hashem. So from Hashem's perspective, there's only one state. From our perspective, you say, okay, that's the one state solution sounds nice, but I see two states. Actually, I don't agree with that in the Israeli case. But anyways, we see two states, but it's fake. It's really one state, right? What we're perceiving is not the real reality, is the reality that Hashem has created for us so that we can feel independent and hence make our own decisions, make our own mistakes.
Interesting.
Yes?
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that.
Oh, now you're not going to stop thinking about this. No. Now, so we can agree that there's a difference from Hashem's perspective or from our perspective. And that is what we call, and we mentioned this a while back in a few of the classes of the Amidah, that is what we call Daat Elyon and Daat Tachton. The upper understanding or the higher understanding and the lower understanding. The Daat Elyon, from Hashem's perspective, nothing has changed. There is no place where He's not there, etc. From our perspective, Daat Tachton, we do see two states, but we could reach at least the conclusion that even though I see two states, I can theoretically understand that this is fake, or that this is not the real reality. And really, we're normal humans, so most human beings don't have that. Not Elyon, not Tachton. You don't realize any of these things. But human beings are able to get at least to the state of Daat Tachton, the lower level, where at least we can, in theory, understand this concept. Very few human beings, tzaddikim, can understand the world from Hashem's perspective. Yes? Now, I went a little bit off script, so let me find myself again so that we can come back. Listen, he brings an example. This, a lot of this is based off, there's an amazing series of books from Rabbi Gopin. Rabbi Gopin is Rosh Yeshiva in Kfar Chabad, which is also Rebbetzin Rosenfeld's, Raisel's uncle,
Oh, yeah.
her father's brother. And
Have you ever been there?
no, I've been in Kfar Chabad
Oh,
once
you have? Okay.
for a few hours, but I haven't met him. But it's more like he gives a lot of classes, and then his son, who has them taped, has put them in books now. And he has a series of books that analyzes all of Daven, etc. So a lot of these examples I'm bringing from him, and he's bringing from somewhere else. So he brings the following examples. He says, you have a king, a real king, not the fake kings we have today. A king in the era where the king had really absolute power. If the king is in the room, imagine this is this tiny room, the king is here. Everybody is nullified. Not to say something else. You feel like you're nothing, don't move, be careful, like the king is here. You are absolutely valueless. You're a zero. But if the king steps out and goes to the bathroom, suddenly you feel yourself again. Now I exist again. Now I'm important. Now I don't have the fear I had before. Now,
It kind of sounds like, didn't Paro used to go in the Nile or something because he didn't want people to think he had earthly qualities or something?
yeah, no, but I don't mean. Sorry, I said go to the bathroom. Yeah, but that was just that was not part of the example.
No, I know. I'm sorry.
The king left the room,
Yeah.
and suddenly you feel yourself again. Now it could be that the king is standing right outside the window, and imagine it's one of those mirror windows where he can see inside, you can see outside, so the king can still see everything that happens in the room, but you can't see him. Right? At that point, are the people nullified? No, because they don't realize that the king is looking at them. If they would be a see-through window, it would be the same as if the king is in the room. But because they don't realize, they don't feel the presence of the king. The presence of the king is hidden, so it feels like they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is an example of what's going on with Hashem. Maybe. Because again, we have the Tzimtzum. From our perspective, we don't see Hashem, but of course He's there. So from our perspective, there's two states. When the king was here, when the king is not here. But from her perspective, is that I've always been here. I'm looking through the window. This is not a perfect example, because in our example, Hashem is not outside looking in. He's also inside. So he brings another example. Says, imagine the king leaves the room, he puts on a disguise, and comes back in the room as a less powerful figure. Say he's the Secretary of Agriculture. Yeah, he's in the government, he's not that big a deal, but he feeds us. No, the Secretary of Agriculture is in charge of food.
Yeah, it's a woman now, but that's okay. He's a king.
Well, like the lady who was who helped, she wasn't a secretary, but she was helping invent the food stamps based on the Rebbe's recommendation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This is back in the 60s, I think. Anyways. So he's back in the room. He's actually giving you stuff, but you don't know the king is there. Yeah? So this is what Hashem is doing. Again, we're trying to give a human example to something that is beyond our comprehension, but it helps a little bit to understand. So Hashem is making sure that we are independent, or we feel independent, to the point that we are making independent decisions. But He is there, and He's watching, and He's doing stuff, and He's taking care of us, and He's giving us stuff, and He's coordinating stuff, etc. And this is what we say, Kel deot Hashem. Hashem, this is a pasuk that says, Hashem has deot. Deot means Daat in plural, knowledge. So why knowledge in plural? Because we said there is Daat Elyon,
Yeah, okay.
and there is Daat Tachton. And both of them come from Him. No? Daat Elyon in the example will be when the king is inside the room and you see the king. That's okay. Problem is, most of us, as much as we try, we don't see that. We can understand this, the king is here, but sometimes I forget. Or 99% of the time I forget. So that is Daat Elyon. And then you have Daat Tachton, where the king is here, but he is in disguise. And so we feel independent. So one of them represents Kudsha Berich Hu, or the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. And the second one represents Shechinah, or the name Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. Yeah? So we now understand a tiny bit more. None of us are experts in these subjects. We're just trying to understand a little bit more. And somehow we have to have a unity here. Leshem Yichud Kudsha Berich Hu Shechinah. We want to put together Hashem and Adnai. We want to put together Kudsha Berich Hu Shechinah. We want to put together Daat, Elyon and Daat, Tachton. We want to have a perfect union. And for that, says there are two ways of uniting these two things, these two levels. What time is it?
Excuse me, 6:37.
Okay. There's two ways of uniting these two things, and it depends on who has the advantage, so to speak. You can unite the name of Havayah, the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, within the name of Adnai, or you can unite the name of Adnai within the name of Havayah. Yes? You're looking at something. What's going on?
I'm
Ask your
reading
question.
from Leshem Yichud that
Uh-huh.
you're talking.
No questions?
Not yet.
Okay. I don't know. So when we talk about the union where Havayah, the name of Hashem that is infinite, is within Adnai, this is called Yichud the lower level union. And when we're talking about how Adnai, the name that is limited, so to speak, within the name of Havayah, Yud Kei Vav Kei, this is called Yichuda Ilah, the higher level union, which would be probably another way of saying a complete union. Yichuda Shelimah, in a complete union, would probably be the higher level, Yichuda Ilah. So it's the same, very similar words. Daat Tachton, the lower level Daat. Yichuda Tata. Tata is from Tachton, but in Aramaic. Daat Elyon, Yichuda Ilah. Ilah and Elyon are from upstairs.
So
Yes.
when Hashem presents himself as Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, vis-a-vis Elohim, he's presenting himself in two different ways, correct?
Yes.
So where does
We're not talking about Elohim today, but yes.
Yud Kei Vav Kei?
We're talking about Yud Kei Vav Kei.
Yeah, but how does that relate to these two forms?
Oh, sorry. So the name Yud Kei Vav Kei is Havayah, is the infinite name, which is we're trying to merge it with Adnai.
Okay.
Yes? To then understand how the other things mix. There's a lot of parallelisms, not in Chassidut, in reality. Hashem has made the world in a way that you can find parallelisms, and so you understand a bit of something here, and then you understand it here, and then you say, okay, but these are related, so if I understand this here, I understand this better. If I understand this here, I understand this better. So Kudsha Berich Hu Yud Kei Vav Kei and Adnai, or Yud Kei from one side and Vav Kei from the other, all of these are pairs of things that are in some form aligned in their explanation. Daat Elyon, Daat Tachton, Yichuda Ilah, Yichuda Tata. Yes? And I'm throwing out a lot of words.
Yeah, quite a few.
But hopefully your neshama is understanding. Just like mine. I'm just reading. Who said I understand any of what I'm saying? I'm just reading what it says here.
I probably depose it. Take
Okay.
it back and read that stuff.
So anyway, there's two ways to unite Havayah. Havayah is the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, yeah? We're just reorganizing the words. We're organizing the letters. So there's two ways of doing this, and it just depends which one is the main one. Who is being subsumed into who? To whom? Whom?
I think so.
Whew. Now this is not going to be easy to explain in 2 minutes. And then start imagining everything we're trying to do to explain, 10 words in the Siddur? And we're going to finish maybe tomorrow, and we're still basically scratching the surface of this one line in the Siddur. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's why if you're interested enough in this stuff, you should delve yourself into learning Chassidut. Because there's too much stuff to understand. And even if you learn all of Chassidut, you're still scratching the surface. Because they say Chassidut is like the cholent. Right? If your wife makes cholent Friday afternoon, you have an obligation to try it out, see if it's good. So because we're right before Mashiach, Hashem is giving us cholent. Chassidut is like cholent, just try it. Now, you're not going to compare trying the cholent on Friday afternoon with eating the cholent on Shabbos. First of all, when you actually eat a whole plate, or 2 or 3. Second of all, when it's after 12 or 14 hours more of being, getting all the flavor. So what we're getting now here from understanding godliness, which is what Chassidut gives us, is just a tiny, tiny bit of what we'll get when Mashiach comes. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.